think there will be a party after this. And people had a very long day. So thank you for coming. My name is Jess, and the title of my research is Cannot Leave a Place Unsearched, Hugh Cuming and 19th Century Philippine Botany. And I borrowed the first part of that title from the very last line of a letter that a man named Hugh Cuming, so the guy where is he? On the left, your left, wrote to the director of Kew Botanic Gardens, who is William Jackson Hooker, and he is the guy who's looking a bit dazed on the right. So I'll quickly read that quote out to you now. My other collections are equally rich: shells, birds, insects. I have forwarded to the care of Mr. Brown a trunk of a tree fern which I collected in the crater of a volcano. That must be the Leyte or something, supposedly. There were thousands. I have but few small species. Some are so large that I have been compelled to divide a leaf in four that has not a stem. In the north, they are abundant in the mountains. How shall I succeed? I can't say, as there is war betwixt the Negroes and the white people, and has been for some years. I must venture, I cannot leave such a spot unsearched. So who was Hugh Cuming? Cuming was a renowned collector of natural history. A lot of scientists have most likely heard about him, but not a lot of people still know a lot about Cuming and his life and his family history. So he collected a plethora of things during his travels across various parts of the world, and he also bequeathed a large number of his specimens to institutions such as the London Natural History Museum, the Linnean Society, and you'll also find some of his specimens dispersed elsewhere, as well as correspondence letters in places like Kew Botanic Gardens and some birds at the National Museums, Liverpool. So my interest in Cuming lies in the period between 1836 and 1840, which was the time that he stayed in the Philippines. As we already know, Cuming collected plants, ferns, mosses, birds, and was also a very avid shell collector, both common shells and very rare shells. His collections had allowed scientists after him to identify new species of animals and plants from the late 19th to early 20th century. So that is Cuming's legacy today in a lot of archives and herbarium and zoological collections across the UK today. So the time that he spent in the Philippines also served as the longest out of his two other voyages. The first was in Polynesia between 1827 to 1828, the second along the coast of South America in Chile in 1828 to 1830. And in these years of travels across parts of the Pacific and South America, Cuming really built the foundations of his reputation as a naturalist who accumulated a vast collection of animal and plant material. And he also did a very good job in establishing very strong connections within London's scientific community and further expanded his network and influence across Europe. So I argue that during this period, Cuming was mobilized as an agent of pursuing knowledge for the British Empire. One of many people, one of many gentlemen during that time, gentlemen who were, involved in a lot of collecting plants and animals. And why would this happen? Well, basically he had a great enthusiasm for collecting. And just to link it to our previous discussions earlier this afternoon on data colonialism, what you really determine from this period of collecting information about plants and animals is that scientists within established institutions would encourage a whole population of amateur gentlemen scientists like Cuming to do the data collecting job for them. Why? Because it saves resources. You don't have to always go to these places. Rather, you get people who are very, very enthusiastic to do the job for you. So in the 19th century, collecting information also happened in the guise of botany, for botany, to borrow a quote from a historian that I completely forgot the name of, takes possession without subjugation or violence. And it is the practice of botany in this sense that was extremely entangled with the imperial desire to accumulate, collect, and really leave nothing overlooked. So over the course of his worldly travels, Cuming also made consistent efforts forwarding letters and maintaining correspondences with scientists and collectors of the time, many of whom would be studied by very prominent scientist as well. So this is Elmer D. Merrill, who was the director of the Bureau of Science.